Morning. Go to a lot of conferences, so you never quite know the energy, and I've appreciated the energy that I've had this morning, and also to go after all those amazing keynotes and the speakers you just heard. So as you heard, my name is Irving Washington, and I'm an Executive Director of the Online News Association. And for those of you who are not familiar with ONA, we are the world's largest association of digital journalists, and we provide training and build community networks for all those that we consider working at the intersection of journalism and technology. For my talk today, A, will be quick. B, when we talk about the future, I dream of a future without PowerPoint. So I have a single PowerPoint for today's slide, and I want you to follow along with the conversation. If you would like to talk about our Journalism 360 program, if you would follow along at Journalism 360 on Medium. So if you Google Journalism 360 and Medium, that's a better way to sort of experience what I'm talking about today. So as I mentioned, our program Journalism 360, we partnered with the Knight Foundation and Google News Lab, and we created this new initiative. The initiative was designed to build a network of journalists who were willing to take on the challenge of immersive storytelling, communicate with each other, see what we could learn, and share best practices. We did this in a variety of different ways. One is the blog, which I hope you guys are on now, just taking a look at some of the articles. We also hosted a series of training events, and we launched a grant program, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So, what are we learning? And is immersive storytelling the future of journalism? So as any good journalist, I won't bury the lead. The answer is, I don't know, and we don't know. But it is exciting. So a couple of things that we've learned throughout this process, and we're still only 8 months in, so this is all still very new to us. One of the first things, and this was actually personally surprising to me, and I think you all relate and why conferences like this are so important, is that there are trailblazers in any field, and the same is within journalism and VR, immersive storytelling. We have the folks who are out there experimenting with this and are doing amazing things. Many of you might be working with them already. But the surprising thing when we started this initiative, we were under the assumption that all of these people knew each other and that they were already connected. And one of the first accolades that we received around this was really, thank you for doing this, we want to get together, which is, again, why conferences like this are so important. And I think Eric, I appreciated Eric this morning when he had you meet the person to your left or right. When you're talking about a new field such as this, this is where things happen, the person sitting next to you, where those connections are happening. And that's what we heard from our ambassadors. We created an ambassador program, we got these folks together. In today's economy, it's hard to know who you know in real life versus social. And so all these folks were able to get together and come up with ideas and solutions to help us move the program forward. In addition, we talked to a wider network of folks and journalists throughout the industry to ask them what they wanted to know. And again, I think this is useful for the folks in this room because this is where opportunities are for the creators here. So what did journalists want to know? They wanted to know the latest information on equipment and access to demos, tutorials on spatial audio, wanted to meet with more device makers. They wanted to know more about information on headsets and systems. What are the pros and cons, HTC, Oculus, PlayStation, Daydream, Gear, and also how to get started. That's probably the biggest question that most journalists have right now, is how do you get started, and can you get started for little cost? And then lastly, they wanted to network with other people who are interested in VR within their newsrooms. In addition to all these questions and having a lot of questions about VR, the second thing, which is not as surprising to me, but the energy around it was amazing, is that journalism is excited about the potential that VR brings to the industry. I mentioned that we launched a grant program. The grants were up to $250,000. That's what the total that we had to give out. And honestly, when we started the program, we did not know who would apply, how many people would apply. Is this something that people are really interested in? We received over 800 applications for the program, and we were amazed by the diversity of ideas, the experiences, and also the communities that these applications represented, and how they were telling the stories. A couple of examples from the winners that we announced last month. There were 11 winners. Just a few I want to highlight. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology is going to build camera and lighting systems to use immersive storytelling approaches to uncover hidden experiences deep in the ocean. At Arizona State, one of our professors, Rita Hill, she'll help journalists and others create a location-based visualization in a virtual reality format. And lastly, at the Washington Post, they'll focus on developing a smartphone tool that aims to better understand readers' bias to a story. It will use augmented reality to analyze reader facial expressions as they interact with stories. But along with this excitement and curiosity, there are challenges. And again, that's why this room is so important, because we would look to you as partners to overcome some of these. A report recently by one of our ambassadors, BBC's Zilla Watson, that she did for the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism, it tracked the adoption and the experimentation of virtual reality at major legacy newsrooms. No surprise, there were challenges. One being around monetization. Right now, there are newsrooms experimenting with this, and they're doing some amazing things. A lot of that work is being subsidized through various partners. That could be Google, Samsung, and a variety of partners that are using to pay for this work. Monetization remains a central challenge, and along with that comes the storytelling itself. As you know, advertising is a strong model within journalism, although that is shifting day by day. But there is just a lack of content currently available for the business side to experiment on ways that virtual reality, again, can create monetization for the industry. In addition to the monetization part, the storytelling format as well also presents a challenge for journalism. Recently, Google News Lab also did a study, and in their ethnographic study, they looked at how the stories that journalists tell affect the consumer. And the study is very interesting. It had a couple of things. Effective VR experiences are designed around viewers as active participants. They cited great examples from The Guardian, such as the 6x9 project, which focuses on solitary confinement. It also leaves viewers, again, as everyone in this room knows, with a strong emotional experience. This is a different way for journalism to tell stories. Journalism is built upon facts, and for you to decide and make the decision on what you want to do around those facts. With immersive storytelling, again, it's based upon emotion. There's a lot of emotion involved. And what does that mean in terms of how journalists tell their stories? And then lastly, it also gives a sense to the viewer that's living the story actively and not passively. Again, this is a real-time experience that journalists are experimenting with currently today. And perhaps one of the most important challenges that we're dealing with is the ethical considerations. We all know that within this space, there are a variety of things and ways that you can create the story and the narrative. And with what we're dealing with in society today and around journalism, what are the ethical complications with that? There are a lot of questions that we're currently looking at to try to see if we can help and come up with best practices. But again, with all of these challenges, overwhelmingly, immersive storytelling, is it journalism's future? I don't know, and we don't know, but journalists are really excited about it. One of the things that really makes us at ONA excited about it, many of you may not be familiar with how we were founded or started, but we're currently 16 years old, and we were founded by those in the newsroom who knew that digital journalism was going to be something of note to the industry. Obviously, they didn't know at the time what that would be or how that would be effective, but they were the ones championing digital journalism in the industry when no one was paying attention. As a matter of fact, another organization at the time questioned if someone who worked for MSNBC.com was a journalist. So those people got together in an airport, essentially, and that's how ONA was founded. And that's the exciting thing about immersive storytelling and the folks that we are working with on the ambassador level and through the J360 program, is those are the people in the newsrooms now saying, this is something that we need to pay attention to, and this is something that could be a big thing, and journalism needs to be at the forefront of it. The other reason is why I'm here as well, too, is that, again, within the creation of ONA, now it's a commonplace to hear developers, technologists, product managers in newsrooms. 15, 16 years ago, that was not something that was prevalent throughout all news organizations. And when we talk about immersive storytelling, again, I think I'm in the room with future partners with news organizations and future collaborators. And as the space of journalism gets wider and that this medium gets more spread out to consumers and storytelling as well, it's important to have partners and collaborators. So I think, is the future immersive storytelling for journalism? We don't know, but what is to come is that we'll need future partners and collaborators like those of you in this room. Thank you.